Good morning, everybody. This is the SIG Azure community meeting. It's Wednesday, November 1st, 2017. I'm your moderator, Jay Singer-DeMars. I work at Microsoft, and if you want to follow along after the fact, the agenda and notes will be available at http://bit.ly/sig-azure. And I bit my tongue a couple days ago, so I might sound like I'm not enunciating clearly. My apologies in advance. So if you could send into the document as attending today, that would be great. I'm going to sign myself up as the moderator. And we're going to try and bust through this today as fast as possible. Does anybody have a 10-minute demo that they would like to give today? The deafening sound of silence indicates that that is not going to happen. So work in progress. All right, let's run through this stuff. Cal, you're up first with Azure Key Vault.
The PR is out. We're having discussions with the community on should cloud providers have this component or not. And there is a bit of a disagreement happening, but in terms of code and implementation, it's out there.
Okay. All right. And as I recall, there's discussion that maybe all cloud providers might be taken out of that. Okay. All right. So the cloud provider breakout, is anybody here part of the team that's working on that? I want to talk about that. All right, I'll give an update on that myself. Essentially, most of the work has been done from a technical perspective to pull this out. We're currently working with Microsoft Legal to look at what is required around the licensing and whatnot of the code. It is porting over to Azure, so essentially we're waiting on the legal team there to sort of get all that lined up. The deadline or the sort of delivery date that we're looking for is by the end of the year. We'll definitely have something solid in 110 and hopefully align with a greater effort there. But right now it's more of a administrative challenge internally in Microsoft to get that done. So I'll keep everybody updated on that. ACS engine conformance. I did the pull request on this, built the clusters and got the logs and all that stuff. And what we'll be doing is working on this for AKS moving forward. Anybody want to talk about AKS conformance?
I can talk to that since Lucky is on parental leave.
Yes.
Right now, as the version out there is conformance except with regards to kubectl proxy feature.
Okay.
Due to the way the API specifically implements this API server, the team has worked together, and there is another bits binary that carries the better implementation that will be conformant. We already did the conformant test internally, and it's 100% conformant.
Okay.
So should be soon. I would say weeks, if not days.
Okay, great. That's great, thank you. Is there anybody else who has some work in progress that they want to call out?
Yes.
Okay.
So a big discussion has happened over the past few weeks with regards to the Azure Cloud Provider implementation of networking specific features, specifically the LB. We have confirmed that we have a problem with regards to the load balancer implementation. This problem happens only when the cluster is under stress when it comes to the number of services it tries to expose, concurrently tries to expose to the world via Azure load balancer. This problem is manifested in dangling resources on the load balancer itself. We've also observed a behavior where the network security groups rules, or as we refer to in Azure or the NSG, are created in a way that consumes a lot of resources, and there can be better ways and to implement this by just collapsing them. Right? By collapsing them, I mean if the rule doesn't need to be there, then it should not be there.
Right.
So it's same feature set from the user perspective, same capabilities from the user perspective, but implemented cleaner on the underlying platform. Again, both behavior happens in large clusters with a lot of traffic. The third problem we observed is right now, from a cloud perspective, Azure recognizes machines as groups of availability sets or scale sets. At the end of the day, just a group that represents a set of machines that acts as a scale unit. The platform will make sure that at least that fault doesn't touch all the machines at once. It just touches some of the machines, not the rest. When a cluster runs with multiple of these availability sets, each availability sets in Azure World gets a load balancer. Right now, if a user runs a cluster with multiple availability sets, and he starts exposing services, all the services are exposed on the first availability set, not on all of the availability sets, or not on like least utilized availability set in terms of load balancing, the routing rules and the balancing rules. So that's another thing. Again, it happens only in fairly complex active clusters. So that's the three behaviors. There is a small team actively engaged in the three problems, and we expect to fix them by 1.9. We have an internal code freeze around 15. I expect to slip by a day or two, but we should be able to reach 1.9. The last behavior, again, regards to Azure cloud provider. It's not really a cloud provider, but the scheduler, and I think there is a reference to it somewhere in the PR's needs review over there. The scheduler right now, when you say I have a pod that has disks, Azure disks to be specific, right? The scheduler doesn't recognize the fact that Azure uses different VM size that allows different types of disks and different number of attached data disks. So a VM size, small VM size usually gets 4 or 8 disks. Large VM size get up to 64, if I remember correctly. The problem happens when the scheduler assigns a VM that doesn't have a slot, empty slot for a new data disk. This problem is nasty because if that happened, the only corrective course is to delete the pod and hope for the best that the scheduler will place it somewhere else. The other problem the scheduler has is the fact that Azure recognizes the tiered storage. So you have like the standard storage, you get a XIO, and then you have the premium, which is, let's say, 10x IO, and other speed features, performance-related features. The catch here is this doesn't work on all the VMs. You have to have a premium VMs. So again, the scheduler can place the disk on a VM that's not premium disk on a VM that's not premium level. And the only corrective course to that is, again, delete the pod and hope for the best. The third scheduler issue is the managed, unmanaged disks, and I'm quite sure everybody is aware of it. Like the unmanaged VMs cannot take managed disks and the other way around. So the proposal here is to create a new predicate, Azure specific, that only is triggered when the pod has a disk of type Azure disk, and it will do the trimming or trim the nodes out that doesn't match certain conditions around disks levels and empty slots and so forth. We're trying to have this as part of 1.9 as well, but frankly speaking, with the networking issues that we have on the load balancer, I doubt that we'll reach this in one night, but we will try. 1.9, but we will try. And I spoke too much.
Hey, Cal, is it easier to land this as an admission controller, as an extensive admission controller?
Are you talking about disks or network?
The disk. No, the disk stuff. Because
Yeah.
if we get labels on the right thing, then we could presumably use an admission controller to add appropriate node selectors.
That's actually another idea we can look into. It can give us the same effect if we ensure that the cloud provider labels nodes
Right. Well, we
with
have to do that anyway. We're going to have to do that anyway, right? I mean, we should do that anyway because otherwise the scheduler is going to have to make a ton of calls into Azure in order to.
yes. The only reason I would push back against labeling, against admission controller, is that the admission controller doesn't really know about the number of disks currently attached on the machine, because it's an interesting race condition that the pod can reach the admission controller while the machine has 3 disks. By the time we place it on VMs, or we'll say, all right, place it on only managed with this VM because it has 3 disks. The number of disks can change because the scheduler might have evicted, or the node might have evicted disks, or actually got newer disks.
Yeah, no, it's true. We have to do something different. You're right. We can't use labels for a number of disks.
Yes, but we can use it for everything else.
But the disks predicate, actually, I believe there's already a disks predicate in there, because GCE has this problem too. It's just maybe the number's lower or the number's lower on Azure or something like that. But we definitely implemented predicate for this at one point.
There is a predicate for GCE, but it refers to GCE PD. It doesn't refer to disks.
Oh, okay. It's not generic.
It's not GCE disk. It's not. It's a very specific GCE disk.
All right.
Right?
So it sounds like we should write an Azure Disk 1, or if we're feeling really nice, we should make the GCE 1 generic.
We should make the way I wanted to approach this, and to tell you the truth, it will be modifying GCE specific code. But what I want to do is one unique one disks predicate that sits on top of a config map, a part of the system namespace that says disk type, node type, and all of that logic can be represented in a configuration, because the GCE guys will probably add new VM types with different disk types and different disk counts, and we on our side and AWS will do the same thing. So it makes sense that we should be good community citizen and just have one that sits on top of
that makes total sense. The only other thing that we could do if we wanted to is we could make it actually into a resource, right? Like rather than making it a predicate, we could actually just make it a resource, just like GPU or anything else like that, so that the machine would report disks as a resource, and then the scheduler would just handle it.
The machine reports already. The machine reports disk count. Each time a disk is attached, the disk controller adds a new disk count on the machine. Machine, but that's how the kubelet knows that the disk is actually attached.
Is it reported as a disk? Is it reported as a resource though? GPU or CPU?
If I remember correctly, it just reports the disk name. It doesn't report it in strong type, like disk of type Azure disk attached.
Anyway, we're probably into the weeds in terms of the SIG discussion, but let's chat some more, and I might have cycles to work on this if you guys have pinned on that with me.
All right, good to know.
Thanks.
Yeah, if you guys schedule a meeting to talk about that, can you just send an invite to the SIG Azure mailing list so that we can attend if we can?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'd probably try and do it on Slack.
Okay,
if we have
that's
a meeting.
fine. Great.
Jay, sorry to hijack your
that's fine.
Just becoming a pressing priority to fix these things.
No, this is great. This is exactly why we're having this meeting. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead.
One other thing. Hijacking the meeting. I've been hearing some what I would call like much smaller scale polish features from various customers. Some things like, hey, we'd really like to have a public IP that is outside of the resource group. Bring your own public IP outside of the resource group for a cluster. There's a bunch of little cleanups like that. I think if people have that kind of pain, this small scale pain, could you throw it into the doc? And we'll try and knock those sort of small fixes off also.
Great. You're muted, Kyle.
Do we have a list of these things somewhere, or?
There is a backlog, but it hasn't been updated in a while because we're sort of the engineering around this is very distributed, so it didn't make sense to try and keep a central backlog. We probably need to talk about how we do that as a group. There should be a SIG Azure specific backlog so that anybody can contribute. I'll put that on my to-do list that we need to figure out some answer there.
All right.
ACS Engine certainly has no shortage of backlogs, so we can pick stuff off of there as well.
Yes.
Can we actually use ACS Engine for that? If it's correct, if it's acceptable.
I would prefer that myself.
What's the question? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, the reason I wanted an ACS Engine is everybody who's kicking the tire with cloud provider is probably using ACS Engine, so it makes sense to just keep things this. Again, let's just take that. Let's table this discussion for a while, and then I'm okay with whatever you guys come up.
Cool.
I think the answer is that's what we should do. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm putting in the doc. Basically, we're going to probably start with the ACS issues backlog. ACS engine backlog. Cool. Right, so PRs needing review. We're not going to go through these in this meeting, but I'm pointing them out to you, and I definitely need people to read these PRs to figure out what's going on and how we move these forward. Most specifically, 47849 doesn't look like anybody from Azure's looked at it, so please take a look at that and see what's going on there. 54177, we need to get this over the finish line. Same with 54674. So there's links to those in the agenda, which again I'll paste in the document in case you arrive late. But these definitely need to have some visibility.
And Jace, one other thing, there's a couple of cherry picks. I don't know if you actually have them in there or not because I don't have the doc in front of me and I don't remember them.
No, this doesn't include cherry picks.
There's a couple of cherry picks in the 1.7 that I think just need Anthony Ye to bless them with cherry pick approved. They look totally non-controversial. But if you can just ping Anthony and get him to go and cherry pick approve the original PR, then those will go in. Like they're ready to go. They're LG Timmed and approved. They just need cherry pick approved on the original PR.
Okay, it's actually a Wojtek for 1.7. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. So whoever it is, yeah. Can we just ping them and like? Yep. It really should be five minutes of their time because they look very non-controversial. Okay. Unlike everything I do.
It's because you get things done, Brendan. 1.7. Okay, so if you have those handy, that might be easier because for whatever reason I didn't see those in my search. So
they're assigned to me. I mean, maybe they went in already, but like I reviewed them last night, and they are assigned to me.
Okay.
But I'll find them. And then the other thing is, I don't know if you saw, but my alpha gate or my flag gate for the alpha feature went in. So if we can reassemble that cherry pick. Okay. Cool.
Okay, I'll have to. That's going to require me to do some mental archaeology to figure out what all the things that went into that were. So, I may reach out to you to organize that, or if you have somebody that's better equipped to handle a multi PR type cherry pick, that would be helpful too.
Sure. I mean, I can probably do it too.
Well, you're not a fungible resource, Brendan. So I would love for somebody else to step up and do that if possible. I mean, I can do it as a last resort, but I'm probably the most inefficient of all.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's actually really super easy for you to do. Like, just ping me on Slack. I'll tell you what to do. Like, the steps are very easy.
Okay, fair enough. Will do. Okay. Feature, any other PR attention that we need to have here? Okay. Lastly, release updates. 1.9 feature freeze is happened already. Code slush begins on 11/20 with code freeze formally starting on 11/22. So please target your PRs to be reviewed and ready to go by 11/22. So start that process, the milestones and labeling and all that stuff on 11/20 at the very, very latest. 1.8.2 is out. We don't have an ETA on 1.8.3 yet, but hopefully that'll be by next Thursday at the latest. And no updates on 1.7 branch. Any announcements that anybody has?
So a new release of ACS Engine will include 1.8.2 and I believe 1.7.9. Let me just check my draft. Yeah, 1.7.9 and 1.8.2 will be going out with the next minor release of ACS Engine. I'm going to try to put that through today. I've been kind of a little passive on that because of all the excitement in AKS land. I didn't want to introduce more moving parts, but that's ready to go, and we'll deliver those two patch releases of Kubernetes among some other fun changes.
Okay, great. Okay, any other announcements? All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for your valuable time, and I'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.